Hello and welcome to Creating the Vision. You get me this week, and this is actually the end of season one. I am so proud of the work that we have accomplished this year. In 43 weeks, we have done a lot. We've covered a lot of topics. We've talked to a ton of entrepreneurs, corporate folks, people creating the vision for their life, the way they want to live it, the way they want to show up for themselves in the world. And I want to show up for myself this summer and for my family in a way that means I need to take a break. I started feeling the tug around the end of March, 1st of April. And as I was still recording and putting episodes out and meeting and connecting with some amazing guests and amazing people who were providing some incredible nuggets of inspiration and content, I realized that just like any big project that you put together, there comes the time when you need to take a break and you need to regroup and you need to get inspired again to let the creative juices flow. Sometimes we can get really caught up in the doing that we forget that we have to take a step back to be able to create in order to do. So I'm going to be doing just that. But there are a couple of things I want to leave you with before I say goodbye for the summer and before we come back on August 28th. So you bet we are already preparing for the fall launch or relaunch of season 2 of Creating the Vision with some all new cover art, some incredible guests who are going to be telling their story. Season 2 is all about storytelling and all about creating this brand of vision in your life. And what does that look like? And so the guests are impactful and powerful, and they are skilled at telling the story of how they got to where they are now. Because if there's one thing that you guys told me over this past season, it was that you love a good story. And don't we all? So I'm going to tell you a little story to close out this season 1 of Creating the Vision and give you a sense of purpose and direction for the future of your summer and the direction of your summer. In thinking about 3 things that starting this podcast taught me, number 1 was just to start. Just do it. Put one foot in front of the other. And sometimes that's all we can do. We can't necessarily see this future that we're creating. We know that we want to do something, but we're not really sure how it's going to turn out. So just start. Because you know what? If you fail, oh well. You're no worse off than if you never started to begin with. So just start. The second thing, set aside time to dream. Set aside time to write down your goals. If there is anything that you have taken from the 43 episodes that we have done this past season, man, I hope you take that you have to set aside time to write your goals down, to think about what it is you want, and to give yourself the time in stillness without distraction to dream, to hope, to believe, and to see a path through to success. And the third thing is that no path to success is linear. Not one singular guest this past season said that their path was a straight line to the success that they now see in their life. They showed up for themselves daily. Sometimes weren't really sure that they knew where they were headed, but they did it anyway because they had a dream that was placed on their heart and they knew that it was there for a reason. And so they continued and decided to show up for themselves. So those are 3 things I would like you to do. Now to my story. Back in December, I hosted a group of women at my home. And one of the questions that I asked them was to pick a word of the year. It's part of my process. If you have purchased my workbook, you know that my workbook starts with a word of the year. Doesn't have to start in January. Your year can start whenever. That's also in the workbook as well. But it's a jumping off point because often if we're getting started in this process and we've never done this before, we've never created the vision for our life, we've never sat down and cut out images or even outlined images or even thought about images that might become a visual representation for the goals that we want to achieve, then it's hard to just get started. So I say, pick a word of the year. Think about a word that you want to sum up and describe the kind of year that you want to have over the next 365 days. What does that word speak to you? What does it mean to you? One of the women in the group, as we went along and shared, said that she kept thinking about the word sabbatical and taking a break, and how taking a break meant doing several things for her, her family, and her business. It was a really beautiful moment, a very poignant moment, I think, for a lot of the women there, because we all started thinking, wow, what am I doing to take a break? What am I doing to take a pause? Do I ever think about myself in that way? That I'm worthy of a pause, that I'm worthy of taking time to just rest? We probably don't. I know we don't. Because I found myself, even in that moment, panicking for her. Oh my gosh, you're going to let an entire month go by and you're going to disconnect from social media. You're going to lean into your family and do away with all the distractions and just really hone in on what it is you're working to build within your company. That sounds anxiety filled, until I spent time later that day after all of them had left, and I sat with my own thoughts. And I gave this idea of a sabbatical more traction. I gave it more room to grow. I gave it legs. I allowed it to be planted in my heart and in my mind, however my Creator saw fit. I gave it to God. And I said, I'm intrigued. I want to know how this could work for me. And can it work? Because I'm of the mindset that it can't. I'm a doer. I am a go, go, go. I'm an Enneagram 7 enthusiast. My nickname growing up from the time I was 6 months old was the Energizer Bunny. My mom still calls me Bunny. So I am someone who moves through life at warp speed, constantly doing. I love rest. I love quiet, peaceful moments, but I can only take them in small doses. And it's typically when I have exhausted myself to the point that it's not rest, it's a necessity. And I'm fully aware of this. So I sat with these thoughts, like I said, gave it to God, said, here you go, take it from me. Jesus, take the wheel, figure this out. And I went about my day. I went about the rest of my holiday season, went right into the new year, hit the ground running. I did 11 workshops through partnerships. I did another 7 through corporate work, nonprofit work, leading right into the spring, where we went on a trip. I connected with more companies. I started leveraging more connections and opportunities to speak more. Was a guest on over 30 podcast episodes myself. So over 30 different podcasts I was on, while building out the infrastructure and the production for my own podcast. It was a lot. It was intense. I found myself alone on a mountain during a ski trip with my husband and my son. I had gotten lost and I was skiing through some pretty rough terrain. It was uncomfortable and I was scared. I wasn't sure how I was going to find my way back, but I found a clearing. I never fell. I kept my skis on the whole time, and I was super proud of myself for that. And I found a clearing, and I took my skis off, and I sat down, and I just exhaled. And it hit me. I was lost, and I needed to find my way. And sometimes we just put one foot in front of the other and do. And like I said, number one, just start. Just put one foot in front of the other. Just get started. But that moment also taught me that sometimes putting one foot in front of the other, we need to stop and look up. Because sometimes we focus so much on just putting one foot in front of the other that becomes our focus. And we miss the forest for the trees. We miss the beautiful terrain of the mountain because we're so focused on the movement downward. Just get to the bottom, that we're missing everything around us. So I sat there for a good while, just thinking and realizing that it had been a long time since I had just done that, since I had just sat with my thoughts and asked myself, what do I want? What is it that I want? What am I trying to create and build with this podcast, with my speaking, with my business, with my life? What is it that I want? And how does it all fit into the greater picture of what I'm trying to accomplish? Becoming the kind of person that I want to become. An authentic person who is a giver, who is a helper, who is a teacher, who is a mentor, a coach, a mom, a wife, a friend, and an empowerer of others to see in themselves things that they might not be capable of seeing, that I know that I can pull out of them. So I thought about all of those things, and I thought about, man, I got to take a break. I got to stop. I actually have to stop so that I can start again. I have to get up off this mountain, get down to the bottom. But while I'm on my way down, I'm going to look up. I'm going to look up. I'm not just going to start. I'm not just going to put one foot in front of the other, but I'm actually going to gain a little momentum. I'm going to let go. I'm going to ski some moguls, which was really great. And I'm going to look up. But here's the other thing to that. I needed help to get down off the mountain. And as I put my skis on, there were two people who actually saw me, and as they were skiing by, they're like, "Hey ma'am, do you need help? Are you okay?" And I said, "Yep, I'm just taking a break." And they're like, "Okay, great. Awesome." They're like, "Have an awesome day." But then I got up after my moment, after my 25 minutes of just sitting in peace and solitude and silence of the mountain as a mom of 3. That in and of itself was a glorious moment that was created for me by me. And I sat up and got my skis back on and realized I really don't know where I'm going. And you know my saying, if you don't know where you're going, any road's going to get you there. Well, when you're in skis, if you don't know where you're going, any mountain might take you somewhere that you don't want to be. So you better chart it out. You better map out where it is you want to be headed so that you don't wind up in really, really rough terrain that you can't navigate. So I skied a little bit further, and I happened to see a guy flying past me, and he came to a stop, and he had his music on and he was jamming, but he paused so he could grab a snack. I skied over to him and I said, "Sir, I need help. I am not sure where I am, and I am an intermediate skier. I would say I'm more advanced intermediate, but not at an advanced level yet. And I have skied blacks before. I have skied a bowl before. So I felt comfortable, but I'd never really skied between trees that were this close. And if you're listening and can't see, like inches from each other in really tight spaces. And then there's a tiny little clearing about 2 feet where your skis have to get through. Wide open throughout trees, bring it on all day long. But that was a little tricky and a little scary. And he said, "Oh, I can help you." So he helped me navigate through the trees into some moguls, taught me some really great tips and tricks on how to navigate them better, to where I started to feel really comfortable following him. And I followed his cadence down the mountain around these moguls. And it was really interesting because I became less anxious and more excited. I started to see that I was really capable of doing this, and that this fear that I'd created in my head of tackling these moguls, I was going about it all wrong. I was looking at it from the perspective of, I don't think I can do this, and that looks really hard. Instead of, how do I maneuver around this to where I can have fun and I don't fall? And instead, it's a really cool way to think more strategically and to figure out a plan. I love skiing. It teaches me a lot about life. It teaches me a lot about myself, what I'm capable of, and it pushes me. And so I love finding those analogies to tie back into the work that I do Because just like seeing a mountain and looking at it for what it's worth, man, you can look at that mountain and say, that's gorgeous. It's so easy to ski down that. Yeah, absolutely. And then you get up to the top and you look down and you think, holy moly, this is a totally different story. But if you just take one section of the mountain at a time, one mogul at a time, you can get there. But if you're not taking that time and you're just rushing through, well, you're most likely going to fall. You're most likely going to have a very difficult path down. So when I got to the bottom and was reunited with my husband and thanked this wonderful gentleman and kind soul for helping me, I realized a lot kind of hit me at once. I tend to have these big moments because I'm someone who's really good at ignoring signs until God just smacks me right in the face and says, okay, girlfriend, you've not been paying attention. So now I got to do this the hard way. So I get to the bottom, and it wasn't anything that was spoken or that I said out loud. I just knew. I resigned myself to the knowledge of it's time to take a break. Keep going a little bit further. Figure out the next guidepost. Figure out when you can stop, and then take a break. And then I thought back to that moment in December when my friend was talking about her sabbatical. And my aha moment happened. That's what I would do. I would take a summer sabbatical. I would pour into my kids. I would pour into the projects that were really lighting me up and that I was excited about. And I would build. I would build and I would create so that when I came back in the fall, I would be even stronger and better and more impactful and more empowering than I was before. And not only that, I just knew I needed it. I knew that I needed it. Not just so that I could output more creatively and productively and efficiently, but to be more impactful with myself, to truly lean into what it is that I want. I can't preach balance and preach doing the work if I'm not doing the work on myself. I can't tell you to set aside time to dream and to write down your goals and to check in with yourself monthly if I'm not doing those things myself. So a lot of this is an opportunity for me to regroup because I've spent so much time doing and showing and teaching and coaching and mentoring and developing and all of the other adjectives that describe what it is that I do in my work with corporations and my work with private clients. I can't be doing that and not do it for myself. So this is my gift to myself and also my gift to you, because I would love to challenge you this summer to think about what it is you truly want. How do you want to show up for your kids? How do you want to show up for your business? How do you want to show up for your life? I've said it before, but we are the main character of our life. And if we do not bring main character energy to our own life every day, then guess what? There is a supporting actor or actress that will absolutely step in a heartbeat and take over. They'll guide it for you. And then you'll find yourself in a position that you didn't sign up for, or one that doesn't feel as comfortable because it's not you. You're allowing other people to become the driver of your life. And I want to be front seat. I want to be front and center of my own life. And I want to bring to it the type of energy that my nickname describes, the energizer. I want to energize my life. But the only way that I can do that is to recharge my batteries. And so this summer, I will be pouring into my family. I will be traveling. I will be writing. I will be recording with some amazing guests that I cannot wait to share with you when we come back August 28th. I am so excited. I'm planning an event in September. If you are local to the South Florida area, so Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami-Dade, I would love for you to attend our Back to School, Back to You. It's titled Vision, Connection, and Grace. And it's going to be myself. It's going to be a guest I've had on the podcast, 2 guests I've had on the podcast, and one that is going to be in season 2, Dr. Julie Radlauer, Suzette Bravo, and one of my dearest and closest friends, Nicole Cumberbatch of the Motherhood Village, is emceeing and hosting this event at Kidnection in Parkland on Thursday, September 5th. You can check out my website, which is also a big project I've been working on this spring and will continue through the summer because it is under construction, and it will seek to represent me, the podcast, my business, my speaking, my corporate work in the way that I feel I am showing up for each of those places. So I'm looking forward to expanding my work, but in the meantime, I'm going to be resting. I'm going to spend a lot of time in the sun. I'm going to spend a lot of time hanging out with my kids by the pool and with my hubby on some work trips of his that we are so fortunate to be able to go on. So it allows us time together and then time with some people that are really special to him because he spends a lot of time with them working day in and day out. And it gives me an opportunity to recharge my batteries. So thank you so much for this amazing season. Thank you so, so much for listening. If you have watched on YouTube, if you have listened, if you have told a friend, if you have rated the podcast, if you have given a review, bless you. Thank you so much. I cannot thank you enough for all of the support that I have had in this project. It is a massive undertaking. I talk to people all the time who say, I would love to have a podcast. And I always encourage them to go for it. And I always encourage them, don't give up. Do not give up. I think the statistic is that 99 or 95% of podcasts never make it past episode 10. 99% of podcasts don't make it past episode 20 or 30. And we made it to the end of season 1 at episode 43. So I'm super proud of that accomplishment. And the fact that we're already about 12 episodes recorded into season 2, gives me hope that this thing is going to be real long term. I'm so pumped to bring you some awesome guests next season and to just continue to pour into you on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, through my website, through this podcast, through my workbook, and help you to create the vision for your life that you so deserve, that you should be living every single day. Thank you so much. And just remember, just start, because in a year from now, in a month from now, in 6 months from now, you will be so glad you did.